This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
All right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today we're going back in time to 1993. The Royal Rumble. This is about the same time that Monday Night Raw started. So from now on, we have Monday Night Raw up until now. Monday Night Raw is still going.
Right? This is the beginning.
So I'm pretty excited that now we will be getting probably footage of this happened on Monday Night Raw, stuff like that. I'm just super
That is
pumped.
January too. This is in Royal Rumble's in January, so this pretty much gets talked about on Raw right away.
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to look at the official start date of when Monday Night Raw started.
Well, this is the 24th, so if it's in January, it's...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Raw started before the Royal Rumble aired. But anyhow, I'm super excited. But you know what I'm not excited about?
What are you not excited about?
The WWE Network is closing down. And I just learned, because I went on Peacock and I looked, they don't have everything transferred over to Peacock yet. And I haven't switched over to Peacock yet to start watching wrestling. Still going to use the network until they close down. I think April 4th or something like that, they're officially closing. But the part that bothers me is I looked up Monday Night Raw and they only have like 5 years of Monday Night Raw. They don't have it from the very beginning. And I was super excited to follow along with Monday Night Raw while watching these pay-per-views. So hopefully Peacock gets their act together and gets the other Monday Night Raws on there before we start losing the network. Because I was super excited about doing that, and it looks like not everything's been transferred. And I don't know how long it'll take. I think I did hear everything will be transferred by SummerSlam.
Ooh.
But by then we might be through 93, and you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I heard that I think it might take till SummerSlam before they transfer everything over. But I was very disappointed when I learned that when I was browsing through Peacock the other day. Now, having said that, I do think it's a cheaper option. I also heard, which, I'll have to confirm this, heard people wasn't able to go back to the beginning at Fastlane. So you know how if you get on a pay-per-view late,
right,
you can go to the beginning on the network. I heard you wasn't able to do that on Peacock. If it's live, it's just live.
I have issues with that.
I have big issues with that because I don't always get on there right away.
No. I mean, like, I've had issues. Like, I very rarely try to watch it live because if I don't watch it right away, there's always been some kind of issues with WWE Network.
Yeah, so little bothered by that. But other than that, it is a new year. It is a new day.
So, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So guess what we got? We got a new video game to talk about.
Oh,
and this one is iconic. This video game, we spent a lot, and I mean a lot of time playing this game in our bedroom growing up on our Super Nintendo. We did not play the Sega Genesis version, and as it has been with all these games we have been talking about, there is a different roster for each video game. So, the game we were talking about is appropriately WWF Royal Rumble on
Perfect
Super Nintendo
timing.
and
Job.
Sega Genesis. This game is got... Let me see. It's got...
I gotta ask.
Sure.
So, Is this the first game to be released in 1993, or did you just specifically pick this one first because we are recording Royal Rumble?
It was released June 8th, 1993, and on Sega it was released September 15th. We do have 2 other games that releases in 1993. I would have to go and check. I believe.
So what you're saying is you did not you picked this one because it was Royal Rumble.
I sort of did, but it was the first game on the list when it talks about the releases. So I think I'm doing this in order. There was a game. Yeah, this game came out. The next game that comes out is in November of 93, and then there's another game that comes out in December of 93. So no, I'm doing this in order. Okay. Although it is pretty appropriately being on our Royal Rumble coverage.
Yeah.
So anyhow, back to business. This game has a total of 7 wrestlers that share both systems, and then they each have their own 5 wrestlers separated. So that's a total of 12 wrestlers for each edition. But the 7 wrestlers that are shared on the versions are Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Randy Savage, Crush, and the narcissist Lex Luger. The Super Nintendo version gets Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase, Yokozuna, and Tatanka. The Sega Genesis version gets Hulk Hogan, IRS, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Model Rick Martel, and Papa Shango.
Kind of feel like the Super Nintendo one had the better roster.
Yeah, I do too. When's the last time we've seen Jim Duggan in our pay-per-views? And this game came out in 93.
We actually saw him at Survivor Series recently, but it wasn't in the ring. It was when they were talking backstage in like that big meeting. He was one of the people in that big meeting when they were talking to Mr. Perfect and asking him about whether he was going to work with Macho Man, and Bobby the Brain was yelling at him that, you work for me and everything during that segment.
Oh yeah, it was like a talk show segment.
Yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was there as one of the people, but he wasn't in the show as a wrestler.
Gotcha. Okay, so the gameplay on this game, very memorable. Matter of fact, we were just talking while watching the, kind of watching the video and kind of remembering this game. This is probably the first game we have talked about on this podcast that we would be willing to go back and probably play.
Oh, if you give me a Super Nintendo in that game, I'm down.
Yeah, because this game was actually fun to play, and I think it would still be fun to play for us. Maybe not somebody who grew up on better graphics and better gameplay.
I wish we had access.
I think we would,
where we actually played these games before we did these reviews.
Yeah,
instead of actually just watching them.
Yeah,
that would be so cool.
And when we get to later games, we might have that access. But currently, some of these games are hard to access. But anyhow, it had a tug of war style grappling system where you're just button mashing and trying to get the meter to go on your side so you can do a wrestling move. You could also, one of the things that was unique to this game is when the referee was unconscious, you could use illegal tactics like choking and eye raking. But you could only do it when the referee was unable to see you,
or if you're in a Royal Rumble, you can just do it all night.
Yeah, I believe the Royal Rumble you can do that. So anyhow, it's got basic move sets, and then there is signature moves on this game, which in some of the games of the past we have not had signature moves.
Most of the games in the past we have not had signature moves.
You've got match types. You've got one-on-one match. You've got tag team match. You've got tournament. You've got Royal Rumble. So you've got a triple tag match.
Huh.
And and then the Royal Rumble. So you've got different variations, and then you can also change the difficulty level right before you start a match.
Yeah, there was like 1 through 10.
Yeah,
Like there was a lot of difficulty levels.
and then so the match types are identical for both systems. I will say we watched it side by side, and the Super Nintendo has a slight edge in graphics. And the sound quality is better.
A lot.
A lot better.
But I kind of like the old school sounds. So
yeah, the Sega's got that organ sound that's kind of retro video game-ish. The Super Nintendo actually sounded more like legit music, still video game style. But
yeah. But and unfortunately, we did not hear stuff like Sensational Sherry going, he's just a sexy boy.
There's no
sexy
lyrics,
boy.
no words on the songs. It was just music.
Which I think only, out of the people on Super Nintendo, I think only Shawn Michaels really had.
Well, back
lyrics.
then, I think Shawn was the only one that had lyrics. And, I mean, who else?
There's kind of a big
Oh,
one.
I Am a Real American.
I Am a Real
okay,
American.
I gotcha.
Duh.
So anyhow...
But he wasn't on the Super Nintendo.
No,
I don't think
not.
we got to hear it.
I don't think we got to hear it either. Because, so anyhow, we'll have to find another video. Maybe we'll have to listen to his music. But anyhow, so this game was really fun, very memorable. And to be in a Royal Rumble, it's obviously not a 30-man Royal Rumble. It's, but it is against, what did I say there was, 12?
There was
12 wrestlers.
12 wrestlers.
So it's you pick a wrestler and you face the 11 other wrestlers for the Royal Rumble, throwing them over the ropes. It's closer to the original
Royal Rumble,
but it's a pretty fun mode. And like I said, the fact that you do get finishers, and then the grapple system. This is a very replayable game. Unlike some of the ones we have already talked about on this podcast, some of these games are really hard to pick up and play nowadays. But this game is fun.
We got to see the Razor's Edge, which I don't think we've even seen on our podcast yet in real life.
I don't think we've seen him do it either.
We've seen him do the Razor's Edge. And then we got to see, I saw the Ric Flair do the figure 4 leg lock.
Yep.
Another one that I don't know if he's really got. Has he done the figure 4 while we've been?
I don't know if
watching?
he has. To be honest, I don't know if he has.
Most of his matches have ended in like some kind of shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's done the figure 4.
So anyhow, like I said, I would definitely recommend going back and playing this one. This is one that we had very, very fond memories of. We actually own this game, the Super Nintendo version, and just like a lot of these, growing up, I didn't know there was a difference with the Sega version. I had no clue that there was different wrestlers. Now, granted, I don't know if I'd be owning both versions. As an adult, I might have, if I had the opportunity. But obviously, you just, probably...
When you're a kid, you
just play what you can get a hold of. Yeah,
money and you get one.
So that's just kind of interesting to know that there's difference in a lot of these versions. And I'm kind of curious when that kind of stops. When we get to a point where games on multiple systems aren't different.
I almost...
Trying to,
Well,
in 64 and PlayStation, they had completely different games.
Yeah, they weren't even like similar games with different gameplay. It was like straight up different games.
So it's very interesting to see that they definitely tried to nickel and dime you back in the day by giving you different wrestlers. So,
well, I believe they did that with many different Super Nintendo and Sega games, so it's not like it's exclusive to wrestling games.
Well, and they're also made by different companies, LJN and Flying Edge.
Yes.
So they're made by different companies. But like I said, we're giving the Super Nintendo the slight edge on graphics and sound. When they were wrestling, the games almost looked identical. The colors seemed to be a little bit more vibrant on the Super Nintendo. The colors kind of popped a little bit more. But as for during gameplay, I don't know if the graphics looked much different. Maybe
No, it's
maybe a
not
little
as
sharper
noticeable.
and a little cleaner on Super Nintendo.
When we saw them side by side, the biggest thing we noticed with graphics is we noticed that the pixelation was a little bit worse
on the
Sega Genesis compared to the Super Nintendo one looked a little more smooth. And the other weird difference was the height and weight was
flip-flopped.
Was flip-flopped on each system for some odd reason.
They're
like, well, this is Sega, so height goes first.
Well, and then there was another thing where when you're picking your character, there's a bunch of WWF logos going up the screen, and on the Super Nintendo, they're going down the screen. Just stupid things like that were just you wouldn't have even noticed if you wasn't like watching it side by side.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a split screen...
It was a cool video. If you can find it on YouTube, they have a side-by-side version of Sega and Super Nintendo that we watched. That was really cool.
Yeah. So Royal Rumble, it was released in 1993, and love going back in time and love going back in time and sharing these memories. Can't wait till we get into the 64 games, because I don't even think we have to do research on those. We played those so much.
Oh, I still want to watch them.
Yeah, of course.
Memories.
Those games, a matter of fact, Nintendo, if you're listening, we need a Nintendo 64 Mini, and if you do not add the wrestling games to that 64 Mini, you might as well just not make it.
Well, here's what I'm going to ask you right here, right now. They're obviously not going to put every single wrestling game we got on the 64. Which one? Which one do you choose? They'll maybe put one. Which one do you choose? I think it's up to 2.
Well, there's a WCW game that's amazing, and then there's some 2 WWF games that are amazing.
There's, did you like No Mercy or WrestleMania better for the WWE?
It's hard to say. They're both great. One's newer. I'm
going to go with No Mercy. That's the newer one. WrestleMania came first. WrestleMania 2000 came first.
You would assume the newer one's going to be the better of all of them, right?
Right.
But
yeah, because it was updated.
Just love those games, the customizations. I remember being able to change the shirts and everything. Like, I remember the WCW game being able to turn anybody into NWO if you wanted to. It was an amazing,
and that was amazing
game
for us.
I mean, you could literally take anybody you wanted, put an NWO shirt on them.
Now you can do that with almost every wrestling game.
Do it. But back then that was
holy crap.
Yeah, back then that was exciting as could be.
That I believe WCW versus NWO. That's the one we're talking about with WCW,
yes.
Obviously. And for that one, and I think part of me would like that one to be the wrestling game of choice, even though, and I don't think they would do that. And the main reason would be because WCW is no more. So why would you put on your N64 Mini and put the WCW one? But I mean, that's the one that's closest to my heart. Now, No Mercy is arguably a better game because it came out well afterwards. But WCW versus NWO, that was just like, that was a first of so many things.
Yeah, it's funny because WWF has been more. We've kind of shifted towards WWF growing up and our likings and stuff.
Not really shifted. But I never was really a
well,
big
you know what I mean.
fan.
Like our loyalties are more with WWF.
Obviously,
but I will say that that WCW game was probably the greatest wrestling game we ever played at the time. That was like the first wrestling game that made us go, what is this?
Right. And
this is amazing.
Well, that game is essentially what started my love for customizing on anything, especially wrestling games. Because I remember you could change the names and
the color schemes, everything.
I don't think you had Create a Player.
I don't know if there was Create a Player. I'd have to go back and look.
No, I don't.
But I remember you could customize all the wrestlers,
but you could
to where you could change. Anybody could be NWO. Anybody, you could change the color.
I think you could literally change their names and stuff. They allowed you to change them, but not actually create players. So I remember going through and I would like change the name of every wrestler because I wasn't a WCW fan very much. So I would just customize and just get rid of all the wrestlers and just change them into my guys. I remember doing that with a lot of, especially the ones like Disco Inferno that I didn't give craps about.
It was definitely a unique game. Absolutely loved playing it, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We still have a few years
to talk about that.
Years before we get to those games. Okay, so let's move on. We have the 1993 Royal Rumble. I'm super excited about this because this is the first Royal Rumble in our podcast that actually has what we now know the rules to the Royal Rumble is. Winner gets a main event WrestleMania for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes, this is exciting times. And now after this one, every WrestleMania or every Royal Rumble matters.
Everyone.
And then we know that we know who's facing at WrestleMania after this.
Yep.
Yeah, we know at least one match every time.
Okay. Okay, so the first match of the night is one that I'm pretty excited about because it is our first glimpse at the Steiner brothers being in the WWF. It is the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott Steiner, versus the Beverly brothers, Bo Beverly and Blake Beverly. It's a tag team match, lasts about 10 minutes, and I will tell you what, for an opening match for Royal Rumble, this was an awesome match. I'm telling you what, it really reminds you of how great of a wrestler Scott Steiner was at one time before he became Big Papa Pump and Freakzilla, because he could really move in the ring. There was a suplex that Rick Steiner put on one of the Beverly brothers that I thought the man was dead. I mean, he landed literally on the back of his neck, and I just amazed that he was okay.
There's a few times where when at the very end, when Scott Steiner does the Frankensteiner on one of the Beverly brothers, I mean, I was going to have a moment of silence. In fact, we should probably have a moment of silence because I don't know how that man survived.
It was a very impressive Frankensteiner.
His head went straight down onto the mat.
There was also
spiked.
There was also a counter move that Scott Steiner did. One of the Beverly brothers was on top rope and was kind of doing similar like the Doomsday Device that LOD does. And instead of him hitting the clothesline in the air, Scott Steiner rolled up the guy who was holding him and ended up putting him in a pin. Of course, we got a 2 count because match ends up ending on the Frankensteiner. But that was an amazing freaking reversal that I just thought was just great. There was a lot to love in this match. This is probably the best match, obviously, I think I've ever seen the Beverly brothers wrestle in. And I'm sure a lot of that had to do with who they were wrestling against. But for this being the first time we've seen the Steiner brothers on our podcast, they definitely have me excited to see more matches from them. Because if they can do this with the Beverly brothers, I'm really curious, even better competition, how good their matches can be. Because this was a great opening welcome to the WWF match.
I remember when I was younger, I used to like the Steiner brothers a lot. And then when they kind of broke up and he became Big Papa Pump, that's when I stopped liking the Steiner brothers. I think I still liked Rick Steiner, but I grew to pretty much hate Scott Steiner. I didn't really like him much at all once he hit those steroids and became Big Papa Pump.
I'm kind of feeling he might have already started using steroids. He might have just went into overdrive because Scott Steiner was no small guy there.
No, he was a big dude. He was. But he's much bigger when he's Big Papa.
Very athletic there, though. And I do think when he gets overly big, I think that might affect his wrestling ability. Because he was definitely very athletic in the ring there.
Right.
So, okay, I'm giving this 4 Frankensteiners to the head.
I am going to give this, I don't know about 4. 3.5. Holy shit, is that man dead? Or 3.5 broken necks.
Yeah. I agree with that ranking because my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I cannot believe. Like, legit looked like when he did that Hurricanrana or the Frankensteiner, he landed him directly on his head. Like, I don't know how you fake that. I don't know how that was done.
It's hard to say. It's amazing how some of these guys come out of these matches unscathed because there was 2 moves in this match that you just thought guys were just would have broke their neck and died right in the ring.
Not to contradict you or anything, but yes, that suplex looked pretty bad. But after I seen the Frankensteiner, suplex didn't look like shit.
Oh, I agree. But it still was. I mean, how often do we pause and rewind moments in these shows?
We did it 3 times.
We did it 3 times. There was 3 moments in this show, in this match that we literally paused and rewound because we were like, "Oh my gosh, I got to see that again." And then, of course, they showed the replay at the end, and they showed 2 out of 3 of those moments in the replay, so we got to see it yet again.
Right.
But that's why I gave this such a 4 because this match just impressed the hell out of me. It wasn't just one moment; it was multiple moments in this match.
Right.
There was even a couple clotheslines that I thought looked vicious that we didn't even talk about. So, okay, so let's keep it rolling. Okay, so the next match is Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty with Sensational Sherry. Not really in either one of their corners, just out there. They end up showing us some past footage, obviously, of Shawn and Marty being a part of the Rockers. They show the barbershop segment where Shawn Michaels turns on Marty Jannetty, and then they show another segment where Marty Jannetty tries to hit Shawn with a mirror, and he ends up ducking, and Sherry ends up getting the mirror.
Well, I think it's less ducking and more kind of putting her in front of him.
Okay, well, you see what you want to see. So anyhow, I'm not going to talk ill will of the great Shawn Michaels. So, anyhow, so this is definitely a very personal match. It was kind of nice to see a match with so much storyline, and this feels more personal than most of the storylines you get in this day and age.
It also felt those promos felt a lot more modern than what we're used to seeing at a pay-per-view, where they kind of give us this backstory of what's been going on.
Yeah, so this is definitely kind of a change in direction on how the stories have played out so far since we've done the podcast. So this was a really good one. And the match was really good itself. I don't know if this is the best Shawn Michaels match I've ever seen, but it was a pretty good match.
No, are we talking about ever seen?
No, not ever. I'm just saying it was a really good match, but from Shawn's standards, it was one of his probably lesser matches. But there was a lot of story going on here.
Shawn versus Brett was better than this.
Yeah.
So we've already seen better Shawn Michaels in this podcast.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to have to give this match 3.5 slaps to the face.
I'm going to have to give this 3 glass slippers.
Oh, I get that. That was a good play. So Shawn Michaels, obviously, he gets the win after Sherry ends up inadvertently hitting Marty Jannetty with her glass slipper. But what was really interesting is after the match, the shenanigans that happened afterwards, they still are going at it backstage.
Yeah, this feud is definitely continuing on. Raw is war!
Well, I don't think Raw is war yet. Raw is just Raw.
Oh, just Raw. Okay.
Just Monday Night Raw.
Okay. So
No war. That doesn't happen till later.
right now it's just an Eddie Murphy stand-up.
It's just Raw. So anyhow, yes, just Eddie Murphy stand-up. So anyhow, like I said, it was a really good match. It's just to Sean's standards, it's not one of his best matches, but it was still a really good match. And so far, 2 matches in the books here at Royal Rumble 93, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, the 2 decent matches. I mean, 3 for me is, it's decent. It's not a bad match. And the first match was kind of fun, and we got some new people that we haven't seen on the podcast yet. So, and it was nice to see Marty come back. He's been gone for a couple episodes of our podcast, and they finally, continued this feud that started so long ago. So, I believe the backstage of this is Marty was having legal issues and stuff, and I think that's why he hasn't been on the show, but yeah.
They played it off as if they didn't think he'd ever wrestle again. So they were saying it was a medical thing, that what Sean did to him, they didn't think he'd ever wrestle again.
Well, that's what they played it off. Sure.
Okay, let's keep it going. Okay, so the next match is between Bam Bam Bigelow versus the Big Boss Man. And this is the first match of the night that I felt was kind of lacking. I felt like there was a lot of, I don't want to say there were full-blown botches, but there was some oddly done moves in this match. It just didn't seem very smooth. Kind of felt clunky.
Kind of like Bam Bam's theme music.
Yeah, I remember Bam Bam when we first saw him originally in our podcast years ago. I remember him being very athletic and very impressive as a big guy. Looks like Bam Bam has put on some weight and just isn't moving around nearly as much. Big Boss Man didn't seem to do much to really help or be that impressive either. I'm just going to have to give this... I'll give it at least 2 flying headbutts.
So, this was not a great match. And, the first thing I wanted to mention is Bam Bam's entrance music. I don't remember Bam Bam's entrance music, apparently, as a kid. It's literally Bam Bam sounding like he's a frickin' Pokemon saying his name over and over again. Bam! 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 Just constantly saying Bam Bam over and over again. It wasn't very good. And yeah, I don't feel like I feel like what you're talking about is that suplex that Big Boss Man tries to do.
There was a couple other things, but yeah, that was definitely an awkward suplex.
I think that was literally because Big Boss Man couldn't lift Bam Bam Bigelow. Big Boss Man's a big guy, but Bam Bam's a bigger guy. So, but the thing is while that may have looked like a botch, Big Boss Man sells it. So, right afterwards, Big Boss Man is writhing in pain after trying to do that suplex. So I think it was clear that was part of the story, that the reason that looked like a botch is because he literally couldn't lift Bam Bam, although he kind of did. So I didn't think that was as bad. So I'm going to give this 2.5 head tattoos.
Okay. Wow, I think this might be the first time you've gave a higher score than me when we've differed in scores.
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so too. I didn't find this. I mean, I didn't think it was great. That's why it's got 2.5 and not more. But I didn't think this was as bad as you made it. I feel like at least that one botch, and that's the biggest botch I think we're talking about. I think that was part of the story. So I didn't knock it for that as much.
I think the announcers made it sound like it was part of the story, but hey, that's just me. I think I think it looked like crap, and the announcers said what they said to make it sound like.
I'm not even talking about what the announcers say. Which, by the way, I don't think we mentioned that we don't have Vince McMahon today.
No, we don't. We got Gorilla Monsoon back.
Gorilla Monsoon back. Maybe he just took a vacation for a few months.
Who knows?
But I'm basing this more on Big Boss Man's response to that suplex than I am that the announcers mentioned what they said. Because Big Boss Man sold that he couldn't, that hurt him. And he's the one that did the move. So I'm basing it on the wrestler selling the mistake.
Okay. Agree to disagree. Let's move on.
All right.
Okay, so before the next match, we get interviews and video footage of this feud. It is Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And you see that Razor Ramon has attacked Owen Hart, which also is the first time during our podcast, I believe, they have acknowledged him as Bret Hart's little brother. I can't recall another time during our podcast.
I think they kind of avoided it so far.
Yeah, it's almost like they've treated him like two separate guys.
Threw a freaking mask on his head.
Yeah, they definitely have done all they can to avoid connecting those dots. But they have finally brought it up because Razor Ramon attacked Owen Hart to get to Bret Hart. And they each have their own little promo interviews. And Bret Hart mentions during his that Razor has gone too far and he has made this personal. It is more than a title defense.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good story.
So, this was a pretty good match, but similar to the Shawn Michaels match, we've seen Bret do better. So
we have,
I thought this was
honestly,
a good match.
Bret has been in one of the best matches of all time that we've seen, or at least best matches we've seen on this podcast so far with the British Bulldog. That was absolutely fantastic. So,
yeah.
It's hard to pass that. And unfortunately, this does not do it. But it's not a bad match.
No, I didn't say it was a bad match. It's just kind of like Shawn Michaels when you're expecting a standard of here and you get a match that isn't quite, to that. I felt the same with this match, that this was a good Bret Hart match. It wasn't a great Bret Hart match. So therefore, I am going to give this 3.5. Give it 3.5 little brothers.
Oh, little brothers.
Little brothers.
You don't have one of those.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent match, and I think I'm probably going to be agreeing with you on the 3.5 little brothers. But, we got some cool stuff. We got Bret Hart not taking a foot to the face after jumping off the turnbuckle like Shawn does, but it was good. Mm-hmm. And we almost got to see the Razor's Edge. Razor Ramon had Bret Hart up there for the Razor's Edge, and Bret manages to counter it.
And that was another thing I wanted to point out. Bret did counter the Razor's Edge, but it seemed like it took too long for the counter. He actually repositioned his arms and you get what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't as smooth as you would think most counters would be. And it seemed kind of like delayed, almost like, oops, like we should have done this faster. So, there was a little, there wasn't any botches in this match. There was just a few little, could have been better type of thing. So.
Alright.
Okay, so.
But I'm going to rate this 3.5 Billie Eilish song.
I don't get the reference.
She has a song called Bad Guy. Razor Ramon's the bad guy.
Oh, okay, fair enough. If I was a bigger fan of hers, maybe I would have got it a little bit
I'm not
quicker.
a fan of hers.
I mean,
I mainly know her because your daughter freaking loves her.
This is true. I should have probably got that a little quicker. It just didn't register.
He's the bad guy.
It's a thinker.
I mean, I'm sorry you have to think. Hi!
Heard your daughter loves her.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish.
Wow, I have never seen your daughter dance like that. She looks... Your daughter's kind of more like... with a pessimistic attitude normally. And she got all giggly all of a sudden. Literal giggles. I think it's a giggle.
You can hear that our house is near the ocean because you hear dolphins in the background.
I don't like you.
So, is her new nickname Flipper?
It should be Flipper.
Shut up.
I think Flipper's a good nickname for her going forward. So anybody that sees my daughter, say hi, Flipper.
I was mostly commenting on the fact that she's like jumping up and down and like waving her hands like she's one of those schoolgirls, like ah. But now that you mention it, that laugh.
Well, don't dolphins jump up and kind of play like that too? I think they wave their
Why were you talking
fins.
about Billie Eilish?
I gave this match 3.5 Billie Eilish songs because Razor Ramon is the bad guy.
Bye, I'm done with you two.
And now she's annoyed. Okay, after that, let's keep it going. Okay, so before the Royal Rumble match begins, we get a segment where Bobby the Brain Heenan unveils the narcissist, Lex Luger. And kind of felt uncomfortable watching this one.
Well, why? Why would you feel uncomfortable with all those close-up shots of his thighs and glutes and, other packages
It was
around there?
Literally just showing his body. And then he finally got to talk a little bit, and it sounds like he's already starting a feud with Mr. Perfect. And then...
Well, he got introduced by Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Bobby the Brain Heenan... little too into Lex Luger, you think? It was a very odd obsession. It was a very odd situation. He seemed to be into him just a tad bit too much. Got to make you wonder. So after the unveiling of Lex Luger, we do get Caesar and Cleopatra comes to the ring, and
they resurrected them.
They are doing a proclamation, telling the rules and everything of the Royal Rumble match, and they're announcing, "Hey, let the games begin." And it's all a tie-in to because of WrestleMania 9 being in Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace. Is why they did this, but it just seemed kind of hokey.
Yeah, but at the same time, they made a big deal about the fact that this is the first WrestleMania where the winner gets to go to WrestleMania, or this is the first Royal Rumble where the winner gets to go to the WrestleMania and face the champion. Like, that was cool that they did something a little special for this Royal Rumble a little special for this Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
Because this is a big deal. This is a new rule, and I love this rule, as it should be.
Yep. All right. Okay, so now it's time for the Royal Rumble.
Yes, it is.
So anyhow, first entrant into the Royal Rumble is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, and somebody we haven't seen on the podcast. Well, I'm trying to remember if he was in.
I think we might have seen Bob Backlund earlier.
Yeah, Bob Backlund is the second entrant into the Royal Rumble, followed by Papa Shango, who you can tell you're
Yeah, Ric Flair ends up tossing him out pretty quick.
like 28 seconds. He's in the ring for. So we'll just go ahead and get that out of the way. Then we get Ted DiBiase, Brian Knobbs, Virgil, Jerry Lawler, Max Moon. First time we've seen Max Moon on
Super
our
excited.
podcast. And this is the second Max Moon character because Conan has already left the gimmick and has left the WWF behind. But this is the only pay-per-view appearance by Max Moon. So we will not see him again.
Right. And who is Max Moon?
He's a half cyborg, half man from the future. Shoots rockets out of his arms or something.
I was clearly asking who is under the mask.
Paul Diamond is under the mask. He was also a part of the Orient Express.
Yeah, he was the
As
white
Kato.
guy that they had to cover with a mask because he wasn't Asian.
Yes, he was Kato. And then this other name, Genchiro Tenryu. I'm butchering this. Regardless, he is the number 9 entrant. And then number 10 is Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, and then we've only had 3 eliminations so far. Like I already mentioned, Ric Flair tossing out Papa Shango. Ted DiBiase, both of the next 2 are ducks. Ted DiBiase ducked as Knobbs runs after, or like tries to clothesline him, and he pretty much trips over the rope. And then Jerry Lawler ducks an attack by Max Moon, taking him out. So what do you think so far of the first 10 entrants in the Royal Rumble?
Pretty, what do I want to say? Pretty pedestrian so far. Nothing major has really happened. You got a few good guys in there, like Ric Flair. You got Ted DiBiase's in there.
Max Moon, obviously.
Of course, Max Moon.
That was the highlight for all of us.
Who lasted all but a minute and 56 seconds. And it was surprising to see Jerry Lawler there. I guess we finally get to see... This is the first appearance of Jerry Lawler, I believe.
No, we've seen him in
have?
early ones. Yeah, like at the
When?
very beginning, I believe.
Was he in early shows?
I think he was at WrestleMania 1.
Maybe.
We might have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure we've seen him a couple times. But it was like at the very beginning of the podcast in one of the early WrestleManias.
No, I just looked it up, and this is his first appearance with WWF.
Really?
Yeah, so no. The answer is
Oh.
no to your...
I thought for sure.
Nope, no Jerry Lawler. No Jerry Lawler until this. I was pretty sure he was kind of in like the Southern wrestling places and stuff. He was a big deal there, but he was not a WWF superstar back then.
Well, I know he started out in the Texas or whatever it was. Memphis, my bad. I don't know why I said Texas. Memphis, I mean, that's where he was doing, but I could have swore he showed up because I thought we talked about the whole stuff with Andy Kaufman that he did.
I don't think
That was around, it was in the mid-'80s because I think Andy Kaufman died at the end of the '80s, allegedly.
Regardless, we're not going through this because
Okay.
that wasn't a WWF thing.
Gotcha.
But anyhow, regardless, but yeah, we get our first appearance of Jerry Lawler. I just looked it up. Apparently, he signed in '92, so this is just our first glimpse of him on our podcast because.
So he doesn't really get to wrestle very much before in WWE before he becomes a announcer.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think he became. Well, I think he was already a pretty old veteran by the time he joined WWF. It's not like he had showed up as a young wrestler. He showed up as a guy that's already wrestled since the 70s, which is actually when I think the Andy Kaufman stuff happened, was the 70s. I don't think that was...
Yeah, it might have been late 70s.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure.
I know it's hard to find footage of it. I've tried to look for it, like on the WWE Network years ago. I tried to look it up because I did I love Andy Kaufman, and I was trying to find. I was doing research for a speech I was doing in speech class when I was in college, and I did a thing about Andy Kaufman, and I wanted to watch some of the stuff. And there's not a lot. There's not a lot of Andy Kaufman stuff on there.
Okay, it's 1982.
82,
so
that sounds right.
So that predates WrestleMania even.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Andy Kaufman stuff happened in the early 80s. So, but yeah, it was not a WWF stunt thing.
Gotcha.
So, okay. So anyhow, so we're at the 10-person mark, and Mr. Perfect just came in, and it looks like igniting the feud with Ric Flair, because it appears that's where he goes after, and that's where we're going to continue this podcast.
Right.
Okay, so the next wrestler to come down the aisle at number 11 is from the Everglades in Florida, Skinner.
Oh, you made it sound like this was an exciting entry, and then you bring up Skinner. So now I'm very... I just got excited, and now I'm super disappointed.
He spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
No.
Is that not the same?
No.
No?
Carlito was a fantastic character. Skinner is very much less so.
Well, he spits tobacco in the face of people
no,
who don't want to
that's
be cool.
not cool. Not cool.
It is not cool.
It's not cool.
That is nasty.
That's disgusting.
Nasty. Number 12 in the ring is Coco Beware. Number 13...
Fat Coco Beware.
Number 13, one half of the Head Shrinkers, Samu. Number 14 is the Berserker. Number 15 is The Undertaker. Number 16 is Terry Taylor. Doesn't look like he's the Red Rooster anymore. Looks like that gimmick's gone.
He was, at least he was memorable as Red Rooster. He was quite forgettable on here.
I don't think he was in the ring very long.
He wasn't. He
was in and out like,
no.
Here, it probably tells me the 24 seconds.
Dang.
Wow. Even you probably last longer than that.
Yeah.
Not in the Royal Rumble, but anyhow. So, number 17, Damian Demento. Number 18, IRS Erwin R. Shyster. Number 19, Tatanka. And number 20, Jerry Sags.
All right, let's go through the exits here. So, first we get Mr. Perfect perfectly tossing out Ric Flair. And then after that, we get Mr. Perfect perfectly drop-kicking Skinner out. Much to the excitement of everybody who doesn't like Skinner. So, me. And I'm guessing you?
I kind of thought he was... I think I had his action figure as a kid. I kind of had a partial liking to this guy. He was different. He was different from all the other... He came out in like these redneck clothes and just a little bit different look and vibe. I thought he was a pretty cool character when I was growing
I don't want American Steve Irwin, okay? No.
This is before Steve Irwin. This is probably the birth of Crocodile Hunter. He probably saw this and was like, that's a good gimmick.
Nope.
Yeah, I think that's how it all happened. And he was like, hey, Crikey, that's a good idea for a character.
I'm thinking he was more...
I'm going to go up to this gator in the Everglades. I'm going to tickle his balls. It's a feisty one!
I think, if anything, he took... he looked at Paul Hogan in Crocodile Dundee and was like, I'm going to be like that guy.
And then Skinner took that from Crocodile.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably...
Yeah.
Actually, around the time, I think that movie would have been popular. I'm trying to think that was late 80s, early 90s, so that makes sense.
And then Mr. Perfect perfectly throws out Jerry the King Lawler. Because Mr. Perfect does everything perfectly. He even gets taken out perfectly by Ted DiBiase tossing him over the rope, and then he's trying to push him out, and then Coco Beware's like, I'm going to join in with this, and then Jerry the King Lawler also tries to pull him out after being eliminated. Jerry tries to pull him while the other two push, and it takes all three of them to finally take out the perfect wrestler. Then Undertaker tosses out Samu and Tenryu back to back to each other. And then Ted DiBiase tosses out Terry Taylor and Coco Beware together. At the same time, he tosses them both out. Then Undertaker throws DiBiase over his shoulder, and then Undertaker also tosses out the Berserker, and then some giant dick in the worst costume ever.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about this. So we at first thought this was the next entrant, but I looked at my list and I'm like, no, this is supposed to be Damien Demento. And it's Giant Gonzalez. It's the first time we've seen Giant Gonzalez. He is coming out the ring to the ring with Harvey Whippleman, and he's not a part of the Rumble. Matter of fact, I don't even think they give us his name at this point because the announcers didn't know who it was.
Right.
So they said.
Right.
He comes out, comes face to face. Bob Backlund is still technically in the ring somewhere, but he's nowhere to be seen, so he has dipped out to let this whole thing play out. He was hiding in the crowd.
I'm pretty sure Bob Backlund looked at those two giants and was like, fuck this.
So yeah, we're not 100% sure where Bob Backlund disappeared to because he wasn't on camera anywhere. But Bob Backlund must have went out, took a shit, got a drink of water. We don't know where Bob Backlund disappeared to, but he never got eliminated. So then you see these two face to face in the ring, and with Giant Gonzalez's elaborate hairy ass costume and all.
Yeah, Giant Gonzalez must have saw Undertaker's outfit a couple shows ago, where he was wearing like the muscular outfit. For some reason, when you already have muscles, I don't understand the point of wearing an outfit where it shows muscles. You know, that's for like fat people to make them feel better.
I think that was because his muscles got deflated.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, he was off the roids.
Gotcha. Well, Giant Gonzalez saw that outfit, was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to put hair on it because that's cool. It was not cool.
Yeah, there's only one person that I've ever met hairier than Giant Gonzalez, and that's Dustin. He's pretty hairy. He's a hairy man.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he's a hairy man because that was fake hair on his costume.
This is a good point. Dustin is all natural.
All natural.
So anyhow,
nobody knows who the fuck Dustin is. Just so we're clear.
Dustin knows who Dustin is. So anyhow,
so you just throw out a shout out to someone nobody knows besides Dustin.
It's my show. I can shout out whoever I want.
Fair enough.
So anyhow, Giant Gonzalez throws out the Undertaker, so he is officially eliminated, but by nobody who's officially in the match.
Correct.
This beatdown goes on for quite a few minutes, where he actually starts throwing his legs up against the ring post and everything, and then they finally get him out of there, and then people finally start going back into the ring.
This is all set up for the next pay-per-view. Or
yes.
Is it the next, or do we have King of the Ring in between?
No. They have WrestleMania, I believe, and then King of the Ring's after. I think it's in between
SummerSlam and WrestleMania. Okay.
So yeah, the next WrestleMania, these two do face each other. And if you are familiar with wrestling or the Undertaker's history, spoiler alert, I think you can figure out who wins.
It's at a WrestleMania? Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
And Yeah, this was a weird. I don't know how I feel about it. Mainly because, maybe I'd feel a little better about it if he didn't come out in such a dumbass costume kicking at Undertaker's ass.
I mean, he looks pretty.
He's a huge dude.
He's huge.
Holy shit, he's massive. Even next to the Undertaker, he was massive.
Yeah, Undertaker looked like a small man compared to this guy.
And that doesn't happen often.
But unfortunately, the outfit was so silly that it just kind of,
Not really much else to note other than I would say that the elimination of Mr. Perfect was actually pretty cool. There was just a bunch of them working together to take him out. Jerry Lawler jumped in trying to pull him out because he just eliminated him. So those were the two probably noteworthy things we've seen as of right now is Perfect's elimination and Giant Gonzalez randomly showing up and being a douche.
Okay, so I would like to point out that I looked it up. He is 8 foot tall.
Yeah, and Undertaker I think is 7'10", correct?
I think he's 7'8". Undertaker is 6. No, he's not 7 anything. He's 6'10".
Oh,
6'10".
Oh, and he's 8 foot tall. Holy shit! How is that even?
Tall.
That's taller than Andre, isn't it?
Because our cousin is 6'8", and he's a big boy. Undertaker's 2 inches taller than him. I think Hulk Hogan is 6'8". That's how tall Hogan is. But yeah, this dude is 8 foot tall. So bigger than Andre, bigger than, yeah.
Is he the tallest wrestler?
I'd have to research it to see if he's the tallest ever.
Was Great Khali 8 foot?
I don't think so.
Khali was pretty big.
Yeah, I'd have to, this is something I'd have to look up. But yeah, this dude was 8 foot freaking tall. Ridiculous. So, anyhow, enough about that. We'll move on. Go ahead and finish up the remainder of these eliminations.
Oh, that was it. That was the last one.
Oh.
Yeah, that was Giant Gonzalez tosses out Undertaker.
Nobody else got eliminated before we cut it off to number 20?
Nope, because then they all started going in the ring and started fighting. Nobody's been eliminated since. As of right now, Undertaker's got the most eliminations. Tied. I'm sorry. He's tied with the most eliminations at 4 with Ted DiBiase.
Okay.
Because DiBiase had that 2 for 1 sale.
Okay, so I just looked it up before we finished talking about this. Giant Gonzalez, apparently they inflated his height. He's actually 7'7". He was not really 8 foot tall, but
it's still tall as shit.
It is still tall as shit. And yes, the answer is it appears he was the tallest wrestler of all time.
So they had the tallest wrestler of all time, and they put him in some dumbass costume. If they would have took this guy seriously instead of giving him a dumbass outfit, that could have been huge.
Yeah,
I guess we haven't really seen him wrestle. We've seen him beat down Undertaker, but
so to give you an example, Giant Gonzalez was 7'7" officially. It looks like Andre was 7'4".
Wow.
So that gives you an idea of him versus Andre. And Andre is the next tallest behind him, it looks like. So, it appears.
Wow.
So, anyhow, I'd have to do, like I said, a little bit more research on. Oh, and Great Khali was 7'1".
Oh. Well, he's not even that tall. I mean, that's just 7'1".
He's pretty freaking tall. Definitely, when that day and age, the wrestlers got smaller. They really, you could be a world champion at, a lot smaller than you used to be in the 80s. You had to be one of these really big muscle bound guys to, get the title.
Yeah, the average wrestler I think is like 6'5".
I would assume so. It sounds probably right. Now you could be a champion at 6 foot tall. So when Great Khali was there, you probably had a lot of 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" wrestlers. You know,
And
what
they
I
got
mean?
little ass Rey Mysterio at 5'10".
Became champion. Yeah. So,
I-
all right. So that's our talking about the height of wrestlers.
Right.
But that's going to happen when you gotta. Like I said, they built him at 8 foot tall, which is a little exaggeration, but
Still, he was huge. He was huge next to the Undertaker, and you don't see that. I mean, he's almost a foot taller than Undertaker.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right.
All right. Okay, so number 21 was Typhoon. Number 22 is Fatu. Number 23, Earthquake. Number 24, Carlos Colon, the father of Carlito.
A man that is cool, and we've been talking about earlier, and then we get his father.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Number 25, Tito Santana. Number 26, the model Rick Martel. Number 27, Yokozuna. Number 28, Owen Hart. Number 29, Repo Man. And the last entrant is the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
As soon as I saw Repo Man come down, I thought, there's the guy who's going to win this Rumble.
Thought he was going to steal it from everybody, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I get that.
But yeah, I wonder how old do you think Carlito was at this time? Think he was alive? He was alive, right? Yeah, he had to be alive.
I'm sure he was probably a kid. I don't. Let's see here. I mean, you can go on with your eliminations.
All right, here's the eliminations.
Yeah, he was definitely alive. He was maybe 14.
14. Oh wow, he was okay.
Yeah.
So Carlito was probably around our age. This is 93.
This is 93. He's older than me.
So I was about 11 in 93.
Yeah, he's older than both of us. But
Yeah. All right. Anyways, that's besides the point. So first elimination is Earthquake. Earthquake and Typhoon start fighting right off the bat. As soon as Earthquake comes down, they start going at it, and then Typhoon tries to charge after Earthquake. Earthquake ducks in the corner, and Typhoon just clumsily goes out of the ring. So Earthquake takes out Typhoon. Then Carlos Colon tosses out Damian Demento. Bob Backlund gets his elimination finally after being in the ring like this entire show or match, and he clotheslined Fatu out. Then Earthquake ducks and IRS just takes himself out. Yokozuna, when Yokozuna comes in, he just cleans house pretty much. He tosses Tatanka out with Authorita. And then, Yokozuna tosses Carlos over the ropes, but Carlos doesn't go out, and Yokozuna ends up punching him to take out Carlos Colon. Then Yokozuna tosses out Earthquake. This big man takes out Earthquake, who is also quite the big man, with a belly-to-belly suplex over the top rope. Pretty impressive, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Then he tosses out Tito Santana after that. Much less impressive because Tito's not exactly a big guy and Yoko is. Owen Hart drop kicks Sags from the Nasty Boys, taking him out. Yokozuna violently tosses out Owen Hart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Owen Hart is charging after him, and Yokozuna just uses that momentum, and I mean, it almost looked like Owen Hart might have got injured after that.
Yeah, I think he might have hurt his knee or his leg. You have to look it up, but my goodness, he took that was a violent throw out of the ring, and it looked legitimately vicious.
Yeah, it did. Then Macho Man ends up tossing out the Repo Man, giving us our final four, which is Macho Man, Randy Savage, Yokozuna, Bob Backlund. Fucking Bob Backlund is still in that ring. And the model, Rick Martel. That is our final four of Royal Rumble 1993.
All right.
So, your thoughts on this segment, section of the Rumble?
I mean, this part of the Rumble is just all about Yokozuna just coming out. And
Oh, absolutely.
There was a part in this section where everybody who was left in the ring was trying to eliminate him, and he still
pushes them all away.
Just pushes them all away. So this Rumble at this point is all about showcasing how dominant Yokozuna is. And that's what we're getting, and that's what we're going to get for the rest of this this match. And I'm excited to see it because Yokozuna is a pretty impressive big guy. Considering his size and everything, the moves he does and everything, I mean, he's pretty darn impressive to watch.
Yeah, definitely. He is very impressive. And yeah, he just absolutely dominates. And not only does he dominate in the way of he's the one tossing a lot of people out, like, he does some impressive things. Like I said, doing a belly to belly on Earthquake. Number one, I can't believe he's got his arms around Earthquake. I mean, with all that mass, and he manages to get his arms around Earthquake and do that belly to belly. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like the most authoritative belly to belly, but he manages to pull it off. I mean, holy shit. So, yep. I mean, Yokozuna looking very good in this Royal Rumble.
Definitely. Okay, so we're down to the final four, which is between Rick Martel, Yokozuna, Bob Backlund, and the Macho Man Randy Savage. And why don't you go ahead and take us through how they go ahead and get eliminated?
Well, Bob Backlund gets his second toss of the night, and that's with Rick Martel. Shortly afterwards, Bob Backlund, he tries to fight Yokozuna to no avail, and then Yokozuna tosses out Bob Backlund. Then we get Macho Man versus Yokozuna, and Macho Man even manages to do his patented elbow drop off the top rope. And Yokozuna is on the ground and manages to toss Macho Man over the rope
while laying down.
Pretty impressive.
So this was a very different, unique, kind of a bait and switch finish, because Yokozuna dropped, and it was one of those like, oh my gosh, is he gonna, and then he drops. Macho Man does the elbow drop from the top, and you're starting to feel like, oh, Macho Man's gonna overcome, he's gonna do this. So to see Yokozuna, after the elbow drop, just literally toss him over the ropes while still being on the ground was a very good misdirection ending, I thought.
Yeah.
Because you could have ended it with him kicking him over or pushing him over or using his body to push him over. To have this ending, whoever came up with the idea that we're just going to have him lay on the ground and throw him over, showing how dominant he can be even on his back, kudos to whoever decided to do that, because that was a fantastic finish and probably the best Royal Rumble finish we've seen on the podcast for sure, because that was definitely unique and interesting. I really enjoyed it. It definitely made this Royal Rumble stand out a little bit more than Rumbles in the past. And then you got the whole Giant Gonzalez thing happening in the middle of the match. This was a very unique and really good, well done Royal Rumble, even though I felt that this Rumble lacked a lot of star power. There was a lot of...
Well, there's a lot of lack of star power in wrestling in general right now.
This is true. So it was just kind of interesting to see the lack of star power. You've got 30 guys, and how many guys did you realistically... Not that... obviously, we already knew one before we watched the pay-per-view. This is a, almost 30-year-old program. But the point is really when you watch it, you're kind of thinking to yourself, who legitimately could win this? And you've got only a handful of guys. Yokozuna, Undertaker, maybe Ted DiBiase, but at this point, he's kind of been away from the main event scene. Macho Man Randy Savage. I mean, there wasn't a lot of guys that you would really realistically think could win this. So definitely shows the lack of star power in the WWF in those years and at that time. And then, of course, your biggest star at that current time was Bret Hart, and he was the champion. And due to the new rules, he was not in the Rumble. So,
right.
But overall, even though lacking star power, I thought there was a lot of interesting things that I liked. I really, really enjoyed the Mr. Perfect elimination. I thought that was pretty unique and fun, the way they eliminated him. So that's definitely going to be best elimination of the night for me. Did you have one?
Best elimination? I think the perfect one. I enjoyed the whole story being told with the perfect elimination. It was just perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect, and I kind of had my heart set that was the best of the night. But then that Yokozuna one happened at the end, and that was pretty cool too.
That was really cool too. I can see where you're coming from there.
So definitely two eliminations that really stood out on this pay-per-view. Even the Undertaker elimination when he got eliminated by Giant Gonzalez. Yeah, the way it happened and the story they were building. But the elimination itself was just Giant Gonzalez just
tossing him.
Pushing him. I think he pushed him over the top, and it really wasn't elaborate exit. So, all right, let's go ahead and...
hold off.
Okay.
I would like to give you some stats.
Okay. For
this Royal Rumble. So 1993 Royal Rumble. Yokozuna is your winner, as we've already mentioned. And I want to bring up something. So in 1989, Royal Rumble 2, it was our first 30-man Royal Rumble, and when we first started really keeping track of the stats. All right? This 93 Royal Rumble is the first Royal Rumble where the winner goes to WrestleMania and gets to wrestle for the title at the main event. So 2 monumental Royal Rumbles, correct?
Right.
Both of them, the winner, both came out as entrant 27. So this is the first time with this Royal Rumble that we've had a wrestler win it at the same entrance spot as another winner.
Okay.
So 27 is now our leader for the best spot to win, make it in a Royal Rumble. Yokozuna also has the most eliminations at 7, tying Hulk Hogan for the most eliminations in a single Royal Rumble at 7. So Hulk Hogan in 1991 had 7 eliminations. Yokozuna in 93's Royal Rumble had 7 eliminations. They are tied for the most eliminations in a Rumble.
Okay.
And then Bob Backlund takes the lead for the longest entrant in a Royal Rumble. He was number 2, and he went 1 hour, 1 minute, and 10 seconds. It's kind of weird. These early Rumbles, they've had long entrants every time. it keeps on getting longer. So yeah, those are my Royal Rumble stats as of right now.
Okay. Let's go ahead and discuss best match and worst match and all that good stuff. Fun times.
Favorite match of the night.
Okay, so best match of the night, and actually I really felt like there was definitely a few that could have contended for best match of the night because, I mean, we had a couple really good matches. Steiner Brothers versus Beverly Brothers, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon. This was actually a really good showing for matches on this pay-per-view. Bam Bam Bigelow and Big Boss Man being the only real dud, in my opinion. Which it wasn't, it was just there, whatever. But I'm going to have to give it to the Steiner Brothers versus the Beverly Brothers because Scott Steiner was doing things that was
murdering people?
Unbelievable.
Murdering people.
I mean, literally driving guys' heads into the freaking mat with his legs. It was just phenomenal, some of the stuff we were seeing the Steiner Brothers do. And that just blew me away. I just thought that was just a phenomenal match. And I'm just shocked in a night that we had a Shawn Michaels singles match and a Bret Hart singles match. I'm giving it to a tag team match with the Steiner Brothers. I'm just shocked at myself. But I just thought that match was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm debating on... That Steiner Brothers match was good. I think I'm going to go with... This is a tough one. This is... I don't have to fight on which one was the worst match of the night. I think I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty for the Intercontinental Championship.
Okay.
I'm not super confident on that because you're right, that Steiner match, I mean, Scott Steiner murdered a man. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Shawn Michaels. Marty Jannetty, that match had so much hype to it. I mean, based on storyline. So I think I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
Worst match of the night.
Okay, so worst match of the night. I think this is going to be an easy one for both of us.
It is definitely an easy one.
Because there was only 4 matches before the Royal Rumble, and 3 of them were actually really good matches.
This Royal Rumble wasn't bad enough to put that on the list.
So it really just leaves the Bam Bam Bigelow Big Boss Man match being like the kind of the dud. It just looks like Bam Bam don't have the agility he had when we first saw him earlier in the podcast. And it's just 2 big guys that just clunked along the match. And it just wasn't a great match at all. So it was just definitely the easiest pick here. And if it wasn't for this match, this Royal Rumble would be... I mean, I still think... I don't want to give it away... But this was a really, really good Royal Rumble, and that's the only blemish, I think, on this show.
Yeah, and it's a good Royal Rumble overall. But yeah, I mean, there's no question. It's definitely Bam Bam Bigelow versus Big Boss Man. That is definitely the worst match of the night.
Okay.
So, not arguing with you there.
Royal Rumble rankings.
Okay, so we're going to rank these up, and I kind of had a little difficulty and a little tug of war in my head on what I wanted to do here, because ultimately I think the actual Rumble match, even though we finally get a Rumble that matters, I thought the actual match in Royal Rumble 5 would have been 92, was actually a better Rumble match, but the matches were kind of lackluster. This one had like 3 out of the 4 matches were really, really good, and the Rumble was still a really good Rumble. I just don't know if it was as good as the Ric Flair one, but because of the combination of the matches being so good and the Rumble it wasn't like it was a bad Rumble. I just think the other Rumble was a better one. But because of that, I'm putting this as my new number 1. So now I'm doing number 6. Then number 5 is my 2. 3, 4, 2, and then 1 is my new rankings.
Okay. I agree with all your points. I think because I really liked the last Rumble better, and for me, the Rumble is the most important part, I think I'm going to stick with 5 being my top, and then put this underneath. So for me, it would be 5, 6, 3, 4, 2, 1. So that kind of changes our rankings for once.
It does, a little bit.
So yeah, this was a really good... the Rumble... I think what I'm doing is I'm kind of knocking some points because of Giant Gonzalez's really shitty outfit. I can't help it. It was bad. It was really bad. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with... the way I did it.
Okay, I'm not mad at you for kind of switching our rankings up a little bit. It's one of those things where I kind of agree with you. You know, if the Rumble's better, but in this one there was just too many good matches. It wasn't like it was just one good match. For me, there was 3 great matches and then a dud, and then the Rumble match wasn't like it was a bad Rumble. It just kind of lacked star power. But outside of the fact that it lacked star power, it was still a very entertaining one. We had that Mr. Perfect elimination. We had the altercation with the Giant Gonzalez and the Undertaker. And then we had Yokozuna tossing Macho Man out on his back. So I just thought this was still a very, very good Rumble. There was just kind of a lot of in-between that felt very forgettable. You know what I mean? But it was still a good match, so...
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of deducting some points because of Giant Gonzalez's shitty outfit.
I got you. So.
And like I said, I think I like the last Rumble better, and that's what this is... Pay-per-view is named after, so...
Fair enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug the pluggables.
Alright, you can find me on Dragon Blazer Productions, on the Facebook, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, and then you can also find me on the Twitters at Dragon Blazer Pro.
Okay, you can find the Rage and Blaze Show at Facebook, at the official Rage and Blaze Show Facebook page. You can find at the Rage and Blaze Show on Instagram, and at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter is where you can hit me up.
Alrighty then.
So, this has been a pretty good episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I think this was a really good Royal Rumble. Very good matches. Very excited to see more Steiner matches, because the Steiner brothers tore the freaking house down on this show, let's be honest. So I can't wait to see them more in the WWF. I remember them being in the WWF, but I remember them a little bit more in WCW than I do WWF. So, very excited about that. WrestleMania, we're about to get, I believe, our first outside venue WrestleMania at Caesar's Palace. It's going to be outside, so I'm pretty excited to watch that WrestleMania. It's a pretty good one. Kind of a crummy ending, but, well, we'll get there. We're kind of moving ahead of ourselves. But this has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And good night from Rage's Pit.
And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Raging Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.